Hey everybody, welcome to What Drives Us, episode 444. That's 3 of these. 444.
Wow,
Well, actually,
that's a lot of shows.
It
3 of
really
these is 12.
It's,
Maybe we need an intervention.
that looks like
That's a
one,
lot.
one, one, one.
I'm binary! Oh, surprising.
Luckily, I'm non-binary, so it
There we
doesn't.
go. I was waiting for that. And I said, I'm binary, surprising no one who's ever seen the show.
444.
000.
There we go. For Wednesday, March 9th, 2020. My name is Russell Frost. I am your host for this week's adventure into advanced tech mobility and sustainable energy. Let me introduce this fine panel and let's get going because we got a ton of stuff to do. And good morning, Anders, by the way. Early morning in Stockholm. It's crazy. Right on. Next to me on my screen is our friend from the Mid-Atlantic region, Mr. Supercharger Kacey Green.
What's going on, everybody?
You were Next to him on my screen is our friend in the Pacific Northwest. He is Mr. OEVA.org, Patrick Connor.
Hello, everybody. I know this isn't like a milestone like 400 show, but still 444. And this is not a daily show. This is a weekly show. Divide by 52. That's over 8 years of shows. That's pretty impressive, my friend. Good job.
Thank you, Patrick. The reality is we've been doing this show for 12 years, though, and
well, I didn't say 8 years in a row.
right. Which, I still think is impressive. Like, if somebody had asked 12 years, are you going to do 400 shows? Oh, yeah, sure, we're going to do 400 shows. Yeah, that's going to happen. Mm-hmm.
You'd say, what are you doing daily?
So, yeah. Thank you, Patrick. My friend from the Great White North, he is the host and the founder of the Tesla Life Show, Mr. Mark Coughlin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Let's get rolling.
There we go. Well, not before we introduce my friend in Northern California. She is a writer. She's everything. She is
I'm
the
every
original
woman. It's all in me.
I feel a song coming.
Russell had to
Georgia McKenzie.
shut his mouth because he was about to bust out with some killer karaoke.
There's
trying not to get us
Whitney
under the watchful eye of the
platinum
DJs.
album on that wall back there.
Shaka Khan, dude.
Yeah.
Shaka Khan.
Yeah, I know, but there.
I know. I like Whitney's version, but I am a classicist.
Like he's got a flashlight.
I have a flashlight on my desk. Yeah.
Russell, have you ever thought about maybe, paying the light bill? I'm just saying.
Or turning on a light, I guess.
Maybe
Yeah.
turn
He's
on a
saving
light.
natural gas for the fight overseas.
That's
You know what?
right.
I love this
Well,
flashlight.
cheers, everybody. Thank you for joining us today.
And
It is 70 degrees in beautiful, sunny Northern California. I hope everybody's out there enjoying something, because Lord knows we need it.
It was a beautiful day today. Yeah, I actually got to sit outside and watch the hummingbirds for a while. A couple of things before we get into the news, and this is where because I get to rant a little bit. So one of the things that there's been a lot with the situation in Ukraine and oil prices and all sorts of kind of more seismic changes. There's been a lot of commentary about what we should do and how we should do it and which is the right path. And one thing that strikes me over and over again, and it may seem like a weird opinion coming from somebody who has spent 12 years hosting or co-hosting a show about mobility, but cars are the problem, not the solution. If we were really, really smart, we would lose a little bit of our freedom and we would spend more money on mass transit and trains and all sorts of things that everybody could use rather than doling out our resources exclusively to the people who have the money to buy expensive automobiles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that EVs aren't better than ICE. You never heard that come from me. What I'm saying is that rather than focus so much on individually owned vehicles, we would be better off as a society pooling these resources and putting them into vehicles that carry lots of people at one time and building that infrastructure up. I'm not saying get rid of cars. I'm saying let's make cars the option rather than the requirement.
No disagreement there.
It's a good damn thing, too.
Medium to high density, but you'll also need an e-mobility solution, hopefully autonomous, for the sparsely populated areas because our country is so inefficiently laid out.
And that's you know what? That's a perfect time for the person with the pickup truck or whatever it is they have. If they live in a rural area, fine. There's existing infrastructure. There's roads. But for again the vast majority of people we have great last mile solutions now in all kinds of electric mobility devices, whether it's e-bikes or scooters or whatever.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting that not get rid of the pickup truck. I was suggesting that perhaps, those also sit for most of the day doing nothing. So you could definitely up the utilization and make it electric. I'm just saying that we can't just only focus on tracks and high capacity vehicles. We also need to remember that our country is. I mean, the other thing that's going to happen with that is once you have to start waiting forever for the bread box mobile to come pick you up from your subdivision, you're going to think about moving into maybe some row houses.
Well, I mean, there's that, but again, I'm not trying to solve every problem everywhere. This isn't a perfect solution thing, but what I'm saying is we spend all of our money on roads. We spend all of our money on motor vehicles, individually owned motor vehicles. We spend very little money on the other stuff that would really be a super smart way for us to use limited resources, whether it's petroleum, whether it's nickel, whether it's cobalt.
Worse, we're cutting. Especially we took for the COVID. We took a great opportunity to just we don't need this bus line. Oh, that subway doesn't need to run anymore. We went backwards.
Yeah, we went the wrong way, and we've actually the part of the problem is that for the last 50 years, cities have been designed and urban and suburban areas around the car. So you can't just say, oh, well, let's not do this anymore because now we've built with that expectation in mind. And this is one of the horrible stories. If a lot of cities had great trolley systems that people used to get around in the city, and then I think it was General Motors and Firestone. Someone fact check me here.
Both of them.
Yeah, they bought them up and destroyed them intentionally so that people would people would buy cars and tires and gasoline. And it's just horrible. And if you read about how these cities were laid out, they had these end of line parks at the end of the trolley stations, like Oaks Park here in Portland was one, and I think it's the only one left. And some of the Coney Island parks and other places. So you could just with your family hop on the trolley, go down to the park, have a nice picnic, spend the day on the water's edge, maybe ride a Ferris wheel or something, and then hop on the trolley and go back and never have to drive. And there were lots of things you could go and do from this line, and those just all got destroyed. What our nation could be radically different, much more fuel efficient, much more fun to live in. And no, that didn't serve the mighty dollar, so it was crushed.
It's even worse than that, as Georgia keeps reminding us, you don't need to run your city as a business. So they've fallen into this trap that public transit needs to make a profit or at least break even. It doesn't need to.
No,
it just needs to be there.
It should be there. And the problem is, I'm going to respond to Russell's rant, and people are not going to like what I have to say because it's not going to make people look very good. And I apologize in advance for my honesty in actually pointing out how messed up people are. But you earned it. This is not the America that pulled together and collected fats to turn in for the war effort. This is not the America that did victory gardens or where women were darning their stockings to make sure that the real silk went to, the war effort. We don't pull together that way. And you may not like it, but racism and classism has a huge hand in why we can't do that, because a homogenous society is one where a more socialistic mindset can flourish. Anybody who talks any crap about Sweden, Norway, any society with a strong social safety net needs to go back and look at how they have behaved the minute they got 0.1 well, not even 0.1, but more like 0.3% more diverse in population due to immigrants.
They lose their stuff.
They suddenly, they don't want it to be quite that good a social safety net, or they want to restrict it. So let's not pretend that when we had a stratified society where those images for supporting the war effort were surprisingly monocultural and monochromatic, if you get my drift,
They were.
that people could pull together for that and go back and look at any of the results that Black war veterans had coming home, to the point of where they were warned, do not come back home wearing your uniform, because the fact that you served responsibly with valor was actually an affront to the people they returned home to, and could, if not get them beaten up, got a number of them killed. So
you
that.
want the GI Bill and your VA loans? Not for you, son.
Black people were never eligible for that. So
right.
veterans of color were not eligible for that. Ask Japanese war vets of World War II who often went to serve while their families were in internment camps, how well received they were, back home.
Young George Takei.
So
he's still alive.
And that's so there's that. So putting that to the side. The other side of the investment part in public transport is that, again, class consciousness and racism comes into play, because I cannot tell you how often, when you look at, do we build more accessible transit? Do we add more lines? When you go to these city council meetings and planning commission meetings, and you have people going, what about my property values? Or we don't want too many of the wrong sort. I lived in Alameda. Now, I loved Alameda. Alameda has a cool, old-fashioned, small-town vibe, and it's right under, like, hanging off the nose of the Bay Area is a little booger called Alameda, and there you are. And I love Alameda. And I lived there for a while, but if you told them we're going to increase routes from Oakland into Alameda. Now, I'll tell you the other side of it. Over by the bridge on Alameda, that part of Oakland is a food desert. Food deserts are one of the things I wrote about when I actually had a column, how bad it was. It was hard to get to anywhere to shop. The one reliable shopping center they could get to was on the end of Alameda. So literally, it was constant fighting about whether or not they should put the bridge up at night to prevent people from Oakland from crossing over or staying too long. It was a constant fight because they didn't want those people coming to the shopping center. They accepted that it was good for business and good for the profits for the city's coffers, but the people themselves did not want those people staying too much. So, yeah, it is smart to invest in it. You're absolutely right. 100%, Russell. I agree with you. It is what we should be doing. But can we put aside our biases to save our asses, literally in this case, from a nuclear war? I'm not too sure. I think I might have better luck looking for a closet that leads to Narnia. And I am still checking, because until I'm dead, possibility is still out there. But and I'm gonna hold on to that possibility for humanity. Surprise me, please. I want to be wrong completely. Make me the wrongest person that ever wronged in all of wrongness. I want to be wrong that we can do this, because I have to have that little slender thread of hope. But I'm an experienced person at this point. I'm not bitter. I'm not negative. I'm just experienced. No, Russell, I'm only bitter about you.
I want to tag in that there's a reason the Atlanta Metro looks the way it does.
Yes.
And it's incomplete.
Yes.
No, and you can, without diluting anything that Georgia and Kacey have said, you can look at a number of cities all over the place and see these same things.
Yeah.
I want to move on.
Mm-hmm.
Good conversation from that. I want to briefly mention something that we'd reported on before I get to the first story, which is another follow-up. Yay! Follow-ups are good.
If you like follow-ups, this whole group, we follow up, unlike mainstream news.
We've got nothing else to do, obviously.
Why did you have to make it sad? Why did you have to make it sad? Wait,
we do it for you. We do it for you.
Oh, that was Kacey. Okay. Um, As it turns out, the Biden EPA has reinstated California's privileges for controlling its own air pollution laws. This was something the Trump administration had taken away and said California is not allowed to have more stringent pollution laws than the feds have. And the EPA has said, you know what, you guys just, you do you. And that is a huge move in the right direction. And we can, of course, debate the efficacy of certain things, and those are good debates in some cases, but overall the idea that everyone should be as shitty as the feds, when California was definitely trying to hold itself to a higher standard, was a bad move. Hey,
Not just California and the 14 other states that follow California's rules. So
right.
Delaware just joined, as and Virginia did while we were actually. I testified to California's right to do that, and Virginia joined in as that was happening, and Delaware just joined last week. So
Yeah.
come on, guys, everybody jump in.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about California and its standards is that we're such a large market that once we adapt a set of standards, we influence the rest of the country. And I think complaining is just such a natural human part of things. People want this, people want that. Let me tell you, just rolling back a lot of the crap that was done in the Trump administration is more like, thankful. Every so often I bitch about it, but okay, I'm very thankful I got my citizenship, and that was my first vote. I'm still pissed that that awful spider scrawl is all over my citizenship papers, but I hid my citizenship papers and I never have to look at that signature. So, but I'm hoping maybe they'll disappear and I can get a new one with a better signature.
Get a
on it.
reprint.
No, I don't want that signature on it. But it was worth it. It was definitely worth it just to have these standards be able to come back and us have that state control.
Absolutely. Well, for our first story, let's go to Mark, who has. I'm. You know what? I want to hear more about this because just the headline, I'm a little skeptical.
GM has announced it's partnering with utility companies, in this case PG&E of California, to work on the future use of EVs to power homes or backup homes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really following the lead of Ford, who indicated with their F-150 Lightning that it would be able to power and back up a home as well. So with a two-way charger at the house, you'll be able to plug the vehicle in, and it would be able to either charge or discharge through the same unit, and you'd be able to use that power in your house. Now, we're not talking about it powers the entire house just like regular. We're talking about a few circuits that it would power to allow your fridge to run, or maybe your HVAC system to run, some lights, things of that nature, but not the entire house, because of course that is a larger draw on the power that you have in the vehicle. I think this is as Russell says, he's a little bit hesitant to say, is this will this move forward? Will this be completed type thing? This is a test. So we really don't know if it'll go beyond a test, but I am encouraged that at least another company has gotten aboard this vehicle to grid type system. We've had discussions in the past as to how this could benefit the people that own EVs if they have a large enough battery, and that battery is of a certain stature that it could rapidly charge or discharge multiple times and not affect the range of the vehicle. Then having 150 to 200 kilowatt hours in your vehicle to be able to supplement the grid to shave off the peaks and lows. If you allow the power company to use the battery and pay the user of that vehicle for the amounts taken from it, could be definitely a benefit to the user as well as the community that user is in. So I think it's something that all companies should explore, we should be looking at some large tests to figure out if this can be done. If you put on 100, 1,000, 10,000 vehicles onto a community's grid, can it be profitable for both the utility and the person that owns the EV? If it can, then I would say we should turn that into a mandate if that is the case. You don't have to necessarily participate in it. This is not saying that your vehicle has to be plugged into the grid at all times. You run your vehicle as you normally would. But what you do is you set up some parameters for your vehicle that you need X percentage of the vehicle to be charged at a certain point of the day so that you can go to work. And then if the power company has the ability to pull and push electricity in and out of that vehicle to help shave off the peaks and valleys of the grid's curve throughout the day and the night, and they pay you for the use of that electricity and, of course, re-top you up as your timing has indicated, then it's a win for everybody.
And if they want to be cheap, they can, instead of turning down your thermostat, they can just tell your truck to run the air conditioner for you.
Right. And what I see is that we already have an extreme shortage of batteries. To switch people over to EVs in the future, we're going to need a lot of batteries. We don't have those batteries currently. We don't even know how we're going to get them. Yes, production is starting to ramp up. Multiple companies are setting up battery factories, but that's going to be a draw on the raw materials. That's going to be a draw on the minerals to get all these batteries up and running and into the multiple vehicles for the multiple manufacturers that are making them. How much does that leave batteries for battery storage for a house? It's going to be a very small amount. The vehicles are probably going to take up the majority of these new batteries because, of course, they're a profit center for those manufacturers to push out those vehicles. If we could also make those batteries, sturdy enough to work on a grid type system, then we've killed two birds with one stone. And everybody benefits. The utility benefits, the person that owns the vehicle benefits, the community that those vehicles are in has benefited, and reduced costs for everyone. So
can we do it without killing birds?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So
Some birds have to die for progress. That's just the way it is.
So this is exciting that all three of the biggest folks that are coming out with EV trucks have committed to power export. The only one left is Stellantis with their e-muscle to see if they'll also do power export as well.
Yeah, it's something that has to be explored. I know I recently sat in on a presentation by Jeff Don, who is a professor at Dalhousie University in Halifax. He also works for Tesla. His department works for Tesla. And he pointed some of this out in his most recent talk, that the amount of batteries that are being produced are all going to vehicles. Basically, only a very small sliver is going to storage for houses or communities. So being able to use those underused assets that sit in your driveway 98% of the time,
just sit
make you a little money for the use of the electricity being pulled out, and of course helping the community and helping that utility is something I think we should all champion. That's something that we should look into.
Okay, so can I bounce back to my earlier point?
Is it the bird point?
No, I am concerned about the birds, but this is exactly kind of where I was coming from with that, with my earlier point about cars versus mass transit. And I'm skeptical about PG&E. PG&E is a horrible, awful company that makes tons of money for its investors and yet rarely burns large swaths of California because they don't upgrade their transmission lines. This is another way for them to sort of like, hey, we're in the business of doing this, but we're going to use your cars. I would rather see them building microgrids and building neighborhood storage and decentralizing the grid and taking down some of these transmission lines, which would have a similar impact. Now,
my concern is there's not going to be the batteries to do both.
Right.
And I think
But
the neighborhood decentralization is more important than individual cars.
absolutely. But then you've also got most of these buses, especially the school buses that are coming out. A lot of them are being shipped with vehicle-to-grid technology, and I mean school buses do sit almost as much as personal cars do, but the city buses, they don't sit all that much. But when they do, it might be during downtime where people are going to be home. So it's
So
worth
again,
looking into.
I'm not sure how successful this little test will be, and I'm not sure if the partners GM and PG&E are the right ones to actually do this. If they're
probably the
going
worst.
after if they're going after the proper, if this is just greenwashing, I'm not sure. But I am happy to see that there's now more than one or two companies that are looking into vehicle to grid. And I would certainly hope that other manufacturers that are getting into the EV game start with this premise that it could be a benefit to all involved if they were to build this vehicle to grid bridge from the get-go.
Yep.
So
I think
I'm hoping. Sorry, real quick. At this point, I'm hoping now that Chevrolet is also committed to single cable 80 amp power export, that the stainless steel one will be single cable and not plug one cable into the charge port and another cable into the bed, because that would be such a miss on their part with Ford and GM doing it the right way.
right. If it's not a single cable, people are just not going to do it. And then that defeats the whole purpose. And I really like this idea of a virtual power plant where you make your vehicle available. You mentioned Professor Dunn. I think that having a 1,000,000-mile battery is an important part of that, because if you're cycling your battery and it's going to cause degradation and reduce the life of your vehicle, people aren't going to do that either. So, and we're getting there. Solid state batteries are advancing. We'll talk a little bit about that later in the show.
And iron.
Yes, and iron is happy being charged full, and so you can take that top 10% and use it over and over without causing serious degradation. So, yeah, we have solutions, and I'm part of a virtual power plant with the power walls I have on the side of my house. And in fact, the utility just sent me an email today that they're going to do frequency regulation testing on them, and yeah, so
Microgrids.
yeah, exactly, yeah. The frequency regulation stuff is very important and can cause all kinds of problems if it's not met. So solar inverters, these battery inverters, they have to meet these requirements. And the good thing is the power electronics have made huge leaps and bounds over the last decade. So I know, Russell, you've talked about your friend who says inverters are noisy and cause more problems. That's no longer the case, if it ever was. So that's FUD I wouldn't buy into anymore.
I'll accept that because yeah, it was an observation that I'd heard actually while I was working for Tesla. And a self-described engineer decided to give me about 35 minutes of his deepest thoughts.
Oh wow.
I don't. Should I? Well, I'm apologizing for you.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where I got that one. And yeah, I mean, I get it. Maybe it's a point, but let's move on. Kacey Green has a follow-up.
I do. So as I was saying, we follow up, and Russell said it's because we don't have a life, but we do it for you. So shortly after, we talked about how Rivian screwed up with their reservation holders and raised the prices by up to $20,000, if not more, depending on what options you picked. Well, they were looking at 50% cancellation rates, and so they decided to do the right thing and finally apologized to the reservation holders, rolled back the price increases for folks who had their order locked in before March 1st, and then they were good to go. And so we thought we should let you know that if you were upset with Rivian, you can be a little less upset with them. The CEO got up and said, hey, this is on me. Buck stops here. We communicated that poorly. Yes, it needs to be done, but we did it the worst way possible. And he begged for forgiveness. So I'm cool with it, but I don't know. If you were in line, you might still be a little bit salty about it. So I understand. So my buddy who changed his order to meet the price change, they gave him back, even though he'd already changed it, they gave him back. If you were already in line and you quit, they put you back in line with your original order and original price. My buddy changed the interior to black to not just for the price decrease, but to get it sooner because they're making black interiors right now. And so then after that, I had a chance to ride in a private-owned Rivian. I had 30 minutes, and we were driving all about DC and the surrounding area, and it's real. I enjoyed it. It was the R1T quad motor. It didn't have the spare tire, and he had just got his roof racks, and it's very fast for such a heavy vehicle. It's not quite P100D, so it wasn't like Ludicrous Plus when we did our launch. It's more like just regular old Ludicrous, but we did the different heights, we did the different steering feel, and I liked it.
Cool. What's the Chelsea's 3 questions? How fast? How far? How much?
Well, I'm
So-
just
so-
like, where are the pictures, dude?
Well, it was at a private a VIP EV event, so there were no cameras. Think about what we do in this town mostly, and you'll know why there were no pictures. And so there was a part of town that has a higher speed limit than the 35 and 25 that the rest of DC has. There was no traffic, so I managed to just. It has, I would say, master brake, but I didn't because it's got one pedal driving, just like the Model 3. And so I just let off the accelerator, and there was still no traffic around, so I slammed the lightning pedal, and it felt right. It didn't have too much body lift or roll, and the wheel didn't have any torque steer because it's got 4 motors. And I think we burned. I want to say we probably went about not really 30 miles, but probably about 15 to 20 miles in the amount of time we had, and you got a chance to try out almost all the features, and it's enjoyable.
Cool.
Yeah, and then how much was he got it at the employee price before the original price increase?
What
Cool.
one thing I like to say, like while we were excoriating Rivian last week, was it? 2
Yes.
weeks ago? Last week.
Just last week.
And I get it. And again, we've supported lots of companies for doing kind of things that make us uncomfortable because we want those companies to stay in business and succeed. Yeah. And that was kind of where I was coming from with the Rivian price increase. That said, as I often like to say, we all make mistakes, and how we fix them determines whether we're good or great. And Rivian stepped in and fixed this. This isn't a flip-flop. This isn't somebody saying, okay, yeah, you know what, we need the money, but we need to deal with our customers better.
Yeah, some of them had their reservations in for 3 years. And then all of a sudden, at the last minute, just because your car wasn't already on a truck, you had to pay $20,000 more? That was a spit in the face. And they did the right thing and rolled it back for those people.
But again, we have supported that in other venues.
Yeah.
And similar actions. So let's not treat Rivian differently than we have other companies.
Oh, if I was a customer of those other people, I still would be mad. But just like Rivian, I said I understood it there, but they could have handled it better, like rolled it out gradually or something. I mean, because look at Tesla last year; they were every other week was a $500 price increase, so it came to the same effect, but it didn't. It was more like a frog boiling than like, oh snap, well, $20,000.
They didn't retroactively change the price.
No, they did not retroactively change on the Model 3 and Model Y, but they did on the initial launch of the Roadster, the first Roadster.
Yeah.
But the same thing happened there. Elon came out hat in hand to the folks, said, "I'm sorry, we're going to go out of business if we don't do it." Same as RJ did. So I don't like it, but I understand it.
It's a hard life being an early adopter.
Yes.
Of a vehicle that costs upwards of $70,000 to $150,000.
Yeah.
And if that sounds like I don't have a lot of sympathy, I don't. I have a little bit, and I appreciate those people spending that money on a product that is better than a shittier product they could have gotten. Okay, but again, like, oh, my $130,000 truck's going to cost $145,000. Wow, cry me a fucking river, okay?
Well, I mean, if you stretch to get it to 70, and then all of a sudden, just 2 weeks before yours was going to get on the truck, you're now looking at 90. You might not have had the issue.
Georgia.
I mean, there's stretching and there's that.
Just saying.
Well, I'm just sitting here looking at the price, and it's like, yeah, $140,000 is a house.
Yes.
In some parts of the
some
nowhere
places.
we live.
Yeah,
Georgia.
Nowhere we live.
California. Yeah.
Well, okay, in California, it is a parking space. In California,
Right.
New York, it might be a parking space, honestly.
Here, it's a place that you can knock down and put a bigger house on.
Somewhere out there,
No,
it is a house.
you do that twice, and then you can knock down the place and put a bigger house on it, because they've both been burned out.
but I'm glad they fixed it because we talked about it, and I honestly feel they could have handled it a hell of a lot better. And unfortunately, take the L now, because now you got to fix that big PR fail.
Yeah,
But
now they can get the
now they're
revenue on the new
they're
cars.
kind of in trouble. I realized they needed the money. I realized they needed to fix the problem that they created, but their stock has dumped off because people are now realizing that there's not as much profit in every vehicle that used to be expected. So there's a hill to overcome financially now going forward as to how are they going to eke out a profit that allows this young fledgling company to grow. Because young fledgling companies need capital in order to grow.
Yeah.
Well, handle it better.
Right.
Could have handled it a lot better.
Is this part of the effect that Tesla has had on the marketplace, though, where everybody thinks that every electric car company is going to be Tesla, and if they're not, then they get spanked?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a great paradigm for us to have.
It's not. But that's like, oh, I missed out on Tesla. There's a new one. Let me sink my money into that. We'll be fine. Everybody that wants electric cars, yeah, that's it.
I don't know. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Excellent follow-up, though. Thank you very much, Kacey. I appreciate that, as I'm sure everybody out there does. Let's go to Georgia for a subject that we've already mentioned a couple of times here, and Georgia's going to elaborate on a different facet of it.
Well, I like bringing some good news, and this is a very good thing. Once again, being your politics person, the Biden administration is awarding $2.2 billion in coronavirus relief money from the American Rescue Plan to 35 broke, honestly, transit agencies in 18 states. So this is for day-to-day operations, so staffing and payroll, cleaning and sanitizing. And for those of you who are wondering, I wrote on Amtrak, yes, the federal mask mandate for public transit will continue. And yeah, there's another variant coming around, so just wear your mask. So
Every time they release it, we get more variants.
We get more variants because people will not wear their damn masks. Nobody, it's not just vaccination. Vaccinations are seat belts. Masks are safe driving, to keep with the transit-related theme. So this is $3.7 billion in total, because it's not just the day-to-day operational cash, which would, frankly, I can tell you, here in beautiful Yolo County, we've lost a lot of our express buses. So even as we're opening up, we don't have express buses anymore that serves large portions of our rural county. We lost them due to budget cuts. We were just talking about that right there, Kacey.
Exactly.
You just
prime example.
Prime example. So I am, and honestly, one of them is the one I prefer to use to go into the office, because I work from home and I go in based on emergencies where I can go into work, sit down and be frustrated because I still don't have a computer with Adobe Creative Suite on it, except my own.
Oh, man.
So, and I like using the express buses because I can walk half a mile, get on an express bus, and be at work 45 minutes, and I've read a book. Catch the next bus, the bus coming back, same thing. This is great. I'd love to see some of these express buses come back in our rural county, because as you even get further out from Davis and West Sacramento area, the public transit is actually funded by one of the casinos. It's one of the Yoche de Hay Indian tribe who runs one of the biggest casinos heading out that way in rural town, and they fund the public transit. So we desperately need public transit solutions in rural areas. So you're exactly right again, Kacey. This is much needed because smaller, more rural transit agencies in counties have had to cut so much. They've cut a lot of their lines and kept the most basic lines. So let's say if I lived out in winters, I would have to drive to Davis to get a bus That then takes me the long route around through West Sac into Sacramento, at making what could be a 45-minute drive or a 45-minute express bus commute into a 90-minute each way bus commute, and would still involve driving. And we want to get people out of their cars. We want to put their butts in a multiple mass moving transit seat. So good for us. Then, so out of the 3.7 billion, there's 2.5 for operations, and then another 1.5 billion for grants for low emission or no emission buses. So green fleets, because while moving 30 people on one vehicle is a great gas saver, it's even more gas saving if they don't use gas at all. Amazing. Let's get some green fleets out there and put them in some e-buses. One of the cool things about Davis is, we have our public transit is actually run by UC Davis, where they have their electric buses driven by students. And yes, when I first moved here, I did go, wow, do you have a bus theft problem? Because there are multiple stories of people stealing buses who are young people and driving them around because they really wanted to do that. And
wow.
that's what it felt like. But I am always down for them to get more funding, and put in like a nice electrified double-decker bus, which is one of our touristy things to do. But hey, 3.7 billion, putting it straight into these agencies, making sure that especially the ones that have run low on funds and are just able to keep the barest functionality during COVID times, I'm all for it. So this is excellent news on my end.
Do you hate traffic? How about if we had a device that could remove 40 more cars from the road easily? How about an electric bus?
Oh, I just want to make one very important point for those of you who understand that my big thing is to make sure you get active with your local government. You might want to see if there's anything at all on the agendas with any of their operations facilities where you can put in a public comment, because there is a deadline. You must apply by May for the grants they will go out by fall. So if you want to see your areas have some of them nice, clean, green buses, go on ahead and drop a little note. Encourage them. Say, hey, I think you should do this. Take advantage of this program. And 5% of that money that they get for buying new buses will go into workforce training so that these drivers know what to do in these new with these new green buses, maintenance, driving, and all that fun stuff, because new technology means new skills.
There you go. And while you're in there checking to see if you can't encourage your people to put in a comment, make sure you haven't been removed from the voter rolls.
Yes, please double check your voting on the regular, especially if you're in a reddish, purplish area. Pay very close attention to your voter rolls and double check who your county clerks are and your elections clerks are, because we've ignored a lot of these seats that are very important for our access to the voting booth.
And then after you're in there check and see when the deadline of reapply is, just in case they try to remove you before it's too late. So that way, if you do come off, you can then get back in before you're locked out.
Expect more
to
voter
too many
purges.
people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or switching your party affiliation, which is
Ouch.
That's been happening in Florida. They've just been doing that.
Yeah.
So good news, and let's keep doing it. Let's move.
Well, to round out this conversation tonight, let's go to Patrick Connor, who has a story. We've talked about this several times, and this is another good follow-up. So thank you, Patrick.
Yeah. So if you've gone to a legacy car dealer and tried to buy an EV in the past, depending on what spiffs the salesman has that week, you might have been diverted to whatever was on sale, which may or may not be an electric vehicle. Well,
usually isn't.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you say, no, that's not why I'm here, they're going to try to talk you out of it. You don't want those EVs. You want this because they're trying to get you into a car today, and that's what they have on the lot. Well,
Oh, the one I used was, I know you're in here for an Odyssey. How about we look at this Honda Civic real quick, and then we get back to the Odyssey.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Salesmen respond to financial incentives. They're going to try to sell what they have. So Ford is trying to change the way they do things. You might have heard that they're going to split internally into Ford Blue and Model E.
Model E.
So with their Model E, now they're also going to ask dealerships to change the way they do things. Now, how successful this is going to be is yet to be seen, but they are going to ask dealers to pick either electric vehicles or gas vehicles and to specialize. And if they do become electric vehicle specialists, they don't want them to just do things the way they've done it in the past. They want them to have a couple demo test drive vehicles with zero inventory, order online, have fixed prices. So who does this sound like? This sounds like some of the EV companies, where,
all of them.
yeah, exactly. They have stores, not dealerships. They order online. They have fixed pricing, and Ford sees that writing on the wall, and that's what they're going to try to convince dealers to do. Now, dealers have every state has different laws. They have contracts with Ford. If Ford isn't giving them these vehicles and they already have, they say, we're not going to change, but we want to sell both. There could be lawsuits involved. I have no idea how this is going to play out. So this comes from Automotive News, and then FordAuthority.com is where I'm getting this information. So they're going to ask the dealers. They're not going to force the dealers. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. Ford is trying to reinvent themselves for their electric future, and we'll see how it plays out.
And this isn't unprecedented. We had Scion and we had Saturn. They had the fixed pricing.
Saturn, yep. Mm-hmm.
But what I feel is probably going to happen here is that once Model E is standing on its own feet and is able to, sustain itself, I think what may happen is it may get spun off, and Ford Blue will be left to see how legacy will actually become when people don't want fossils, and Model E will get a new name, and you'll get your stock will split, and you'll have one in the future and one that you want to get rid of real quick, and that would also divest them of dealerships because they only had an agreement with Ford. They didn't have an agreement with whatever this new company is, new Fomoco, and because they don't have any dealership agreements anywhere in the nation, they can't get roped into there's a closer store in Hawaii because you have one dealership somewhere, so they can then pull the same moves as Tesla and Rivian, and at that point we might see them try and get help some legislation happen the same way that Tesla and Rivian and the Chinese are doing, versus what we see with the dealerships fighting any sort of no middleman situation.
Yeah, this started this split when it first leaked. People thought it was going to be an IPO, and that might have given them the legal standing to say, hey, you don't have agreements with us, we're a separate company. But now that it's an internal division and they're both going to be labeled Ford, I don't know how that will play out. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see.
I guess they'll kick them out the bed, but maybe this time they'll be more prepared, because if they had done this last week when the rumors were going around, Model E wouldn't be ready to stand on its own 2 feet.
So, from my own opinion, we don't know where this is going to go.
Nobody knows except Ford.
Yeah.
Not even Ford.
Ford doesn't know. Ford has no clue. And when Kacey says ask, they have to ask because of the dealer laws, as we've said a million times, there's not a lot that the OEMs can do to hammerlock the dealers to make them do things the way they want to within certain parameters. They can do some things, but they then expose themselves to liability, and super large corporations like Ford and GM, they're really, really resistant to that kind of stuff, for better or worse. So you have to understand that for all the OEMs out there, the legacy car companies, as you will, dealer networks are the third rail. They need them, they love them, and they hate them. And at least Ford here, the company, is trying to do something, and I'm going to give them credit. Now, Ford's one of the leaders of talking a bigger game than it actually does. And we can go through the litany of that, especially when it comes to electric vehicles. But it does seem like lots of companies have kind of seen the light and kind of turning a corner and sort of pursuing a different path. So let's hope that Ford means it. And let's hope that some of the dealers with vision say, I want to be a, I want to be a good dealer. I want to be this. I want to be involved in this. And maybe the bifurcation is the right thing to do. I don't know.
And
go ahead, Kacey.
and if you think that this is timid and they're making baby steps, this is true. The last time GM and Ford tried anything, they each built or bought or spun up 20 dealerships, and they got their hands slapped so hard that they were afraid to try it again for another 35 years or more. I think one tried in the 60s and the other tried in the 70s or late 80s, and it was not pleasant. What happened was these dealerships, they all circled up and they got new laws passed to make it even harder to unseat the middleman. So
Yeah.
this is why they have taken such slow progress to this.
These dealerships are going to have to realize that they're going to make money at this new format. And if they think that they're going to make less money or not enough money, they'll be dead set against it. So it's, I understand that it may be nice to have a separate division that's selling EVs because they're not trying to push off on other cars. And the people that are coming in are looking for an EV. You're selling the EV. You have the information on EVs. It makes it a really easy transaction for the customer. But if these dealerships believe they're going to make less money at this, they're not going to be on board to push this forward. So not a surprise there.
The nice thing is if you have a dealership that today, and then they say, hey, we want to do an electric vehicle dealership, they don't have to go buy a massive lot, right? They could put it in a mall. They have to have room for as a couple display cars, and then down in the garage, their test drive vehicles. So their upfront cost is going to be a lot lower, which could help their profits.
I mean, that could be very attractive, especially if you decide that you want to scale down or just start entering that market. You don't have to, you could actually have a massive lot where you do sell ICE and then just rent out a small office space where you're certified to sell EVs.
Yeah, I mean, it would, in my opinion, it would be a really, really good thing if this opportunity that Ford's presenting is a genuine one, and if it opens up to new dealers that are not dealers now, that are
That's
people
a great
that are
thought.
interested in selling this product. Because honestly, there is no worse group of no vision, corrupt assholes than most car dealers right now.
Wow, tell us how you really feel, Rusty.
You should line them up against the wall. No.
Oh, whoa.
Whoa.
And tell them they're great.
All I'm saying is that if this is genuine and if it presents an opportunity for a new group of people to come in and be these new Ford E dealer owners, that's awesome. They may not be any better than the old dealers, but at least it's a different group of people. How many legacy car dealerships are like in the third generation in the town you're in?
I worked for one.
Everybody
I worked for
knows
another one. I worked for one that was pure corporate as well. They similar headset.
I'm just saying like 3 generations of this family's name is selling Fords in this town. And while on one hand, I guess that's wonderful. On the other hand, it's like it doesn't breed innovation. It doesn't breed change. It doesn't breed improvements. It breeds protecting our investment.
Yeah, I was lucky that mine was the one that actually cared about their community and not just the dollars. But it could have been. I mean, the other thing to look at here is that now you don't have floor plan, so you're not paying interest on all these unsold vehicles month after month, and you don't need a massive lot, so you can actually sell that lot to somebody who can actually do something with it, or you can turn it into a park or whatever. And you don't actually even have to own the test drive vehicles because that belongs to Ford. So you're just there collecting orders, and your people can get a commission directly from Ford, or they can be like Tesla used to be. You get paid by the smiles or whatever the hell that was, and it's just a much smaller footprint, and you're making so many more customers happy. And then you can auction off their crappy ICE vehicles straight to Mannheim, and you don't have to worry about having to be holding the bag when the fossil industry drops out from under it, like in Norway.
I got nothing. Okay. Well,
And then you don't have to
see-
sell Civics when you were trying to sell an Odyssey.
right. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's a hopeful step, and hopefully that'll work. Georgia,
What?
we're going to go to you
Oh.
for the cleanup story. A happy, fun end of the night story, right?
I think it is. I mean,
A little bit.
I think it's pretty cool, actually.
Okay.
So, y'all know that I have a thing for, cute and kind of weird vehicles. Can you
Did
blame
we
me?
know that? We did know that.
I kind of do. I mean, I like unusual vehicles. So Alibaba, which I can't quite decide what they are. Basically, they literally are a massive electronic bazaar of wild and woolly stuff. But Alibaba has buses that are electric, and they are just adorable. So maybe I can get the local transit agency to pick up a few of these. What can I say? They seat 23 people, and they're shaped like cats. It's my neighbor
I've got a picture on the
Totoro.
screen, Russell.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Look at that. That
This
is
one model.
adorable. If it comes with a tiger, I want one. Yes,
Whoa.
pet tiger.
I don't even know what to say about that.
And not only does it have a tiger, it has a dolphin bus. There's
Oh,
one that's
yeah.
a bug.
Scroll down, see the other one.
That's right. You can have a little Nemo.
No,
Nemo bus.
that scares me now.
That's
And then
scary.
what's this one? Nemo? Nemo, yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
Nemo bus.
A little. Wow, that's.
Look at these stats real quick.
They're
These are
electric.
actually big
Whoa,
stats. Yeah.
those are some
Yes,
big
they
eyes.
are electric, and I think that basically, things go south with the graphics and the voiceover and the writing and whatnot. I buy one of these buses, I start picking up transit customers and just charging them.
That idea, I
That's me.
love.
That's me. I'm gonna be your YOLO jitney driver. That's me.
I love. Now I will do that job. Okay.
It is just $16,000, people.
That's not bad.
My Honda
What?
Fit cost me 15. 16K.
Right. Yeah.
Come on. And I don't know. I'd be torn. Nemo bus, Tiger bus, come on. Everybody has dreamt about being a bus driver from something that looks like it came from my neighbor Totoro. You know you have.
And let's be clear, and Davis, you would clean up.
I would
Okay.
clean up. Oh,
You would
come on.
clean up with that. People would be fighting for seats on your bus.
That's right. Come on. I will take you all around town. We will go to every shopping center, pick up all the seniors, only $250 for a ride. Because I'm a reasonable person. Granted, if
Round
you
trip.
annoy me, it's $5 if you annoy me, because there's a fuckery tax. There's always a fuckery tax. but definitely that was my cutesy thing. I thought you'd enjoy it. And once again, when you go contact your transit agency, slip them the Alibaba link. Say, come on, jazz it up. More riders. If it looked like Nemo, do it. Do that thing.
Imagine this thing working events. Like, that would be awesome.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm good. I have
I
a
just-
friend who works for UC Berkeley, and I'm just like, you have to drive the little golf cart around sometimes when they do in-person events. Tell them to get the bus for you. Do it. Come on, you want to. Make it like
Let me
the
look up the
mascot
price
bus.
of a golf cart.
That's
New
right.
Golf cart.
Clean
Can
up.
I point out our editorial process?
What is our
on
editorial
this?
process? We have an
So-
editorial process.
So interesting to me that the same week that VW does a big push for the ID Buzz, we're talking about the Nemo bus. I love this show. That's all I'm going to say. I love all
The
of
ID
you.
Buzz,
and
the
I
ID
love
Buzz, they've
this
been talking about this thing since 2001.
Mm-hmm. Lucy with the football. Lucy with the football, man.
That's
No
right. We'll
argument.
see if that actually happens.
Yeah. No. I mean, here we are. Nemo bus, ID Buzz. Oh, whatever. We're
Do
gonna
it.
talk about the Tiger bus.
Yeah.
Tiger Yes.
Let's do some shout outs and go home. Yes, if you have a show title, please put it in the chat. I would love to see it. I don't, Patrick. what?
So based on whenever this article was written, the average price of a new golf cart is between $7,500 to $9,500, but can go as high as $20,000. So instead of a golf cart for these events, get you a Nemo bus.
Get you a Nemo bus, damn it.
Right?
You save $4,000
That's right.
and see a lot more
Seats
people.
more people, yeah.
Exactly.
That's right. You'll see more people, pay less money, and bring joy to all the little boys and girls. And if you can't do that every day, are you really living?
Let's just talk about arriving in style.
That's right.
I like JT's show title suggestion.
VW might not like it though.
It's an ironic title, yes.
Yeah, it's very ironic. As in, that check ain't never cashing because
Right.
it's never been written. Let's
Shout outs and go home, people.
let's do shout outs and go home. Thank you so much. And Georgia, can I start with you this week?
What for? Do I have anything useful to say?
Wow, you just had to freaking card me right there. Like, why? What is it?
What for? What did I do? No, I just want to give a shout out to all you fine listeners, watchers, because we are streaming and also going to be on the podcast. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, because I know some of you be like, but I already hit it ages ago, and I subscribe. Hey, every time you hit like on a show that we've done, it actually boosts our numbers and tells people that people actually like the show. So yes, hit like every time you watch. That way it helps us get out there to Das Nemo, JT, really? It helps people find our show. And I also want to point out to you that if you actually would like to see more of Kacey Green and his adventures with Rivian and training the bots that will eventually take us over, because we kind of deserve it, don't forget to go on over to his YouTube channel, hit like and subscribe over there. That's Kacey Green and YouTube, KACEYGREEN. And while you're at it, bounce on over to Mark's channel, The Tesla Life. Mark's got everything for you. He keeps up with all things Tesla, so you don't have to, because that's a lot of brain space you could save for sports scores or,
Save
whatever
8
it is
hours a
people
week.
think about, because I don't know. Lord knows I have no idea what goes through the regular person's mind. So please hit like, hit subscribe, support Mark over there in the Tesla Life. And Patrick is writing at cardswithcords.net. Don't forget to stop in, read his blog posts about his supremely awesome, technical, sustainable life with all of his batteries and solar whatsits and doodads, like the color changing thing behind him right now, looking like a glowing lightsaber. All right, Pat. All right, Patrick, you know what you got hidden back there. You're like the Batman of what drives us. So, so don't forget, tune in next time for What Drives Us, and I'm going to bounce you back over to Russell.
I gotta give Batman the mic next, because that's just
Thank you, Georgia. That was very flattering. Yeah. So I, as she said, write at carswithcords.net. I've got a few things coming up. It should be exciting. And I am also with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org. Thanks a lot.
Oh, that's a good one, Patrick. Looking at your title. Let's go to Mark Coughlin.
If you have interest in Tesla, please follow us at The Tesla Life. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter. And you can find us also on Facebook. So just search The Tesla Life and you will find us.
What is that, Kacey? That's kind of rude, isn't it?
I was pointing at his title. but
Oh,
my hand kind of goes off the
okay. I
screen.
thought you were like,
He was poking me.
That way.
I kind of like Boogertown, USA.
You kind of like Boogertown?
We'll get down USA.
Okay. Well, I'll run with whatever the group thinks. How's that? Kacey Green.
So as
What's
Georgia
up?
said, over at youtube.com/Kacey Green, I got some stuff for you, and come check it out.
Do definitely do that. Subscribe and like his videos. Hit the bell so you get notified. Thank you so much. I want to thank Michael Manring for his amazing theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. Buy a song, buy an album. Just send him some money, because he needs your money, and he deserves it. I want to thank Kacey Green, Patrick Connor, Mark Coughlin, and Georgia McKenzie for a great show. I don't know what the title is going to be, but we ended on Nemo Bus. So frankly, you've made my day. This is the best part of the day so far. I also want to thank all of you folks out there, the reason we do the show, whether you're watching or listening, or maybe even doing both. Thanks to everybody in the chat tonight. Nice to see you in there. Anders, thanks from Stockholm at, what is it, like 3 a.m. there? Come on. Thanks very much for that. Tune in next week and find out what drives us. See you next week, everybody.
Bye, all. Stay safe.